Hello, and welcome to the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway podcast. That's right. Your host and tour guide is Scott Prevet, a healer, hypnotist, and a magician. And your bus driver is Jason Gobelli, also a hypnotist, an entrepreneur, and a spiritual guide. Disclaimer, neither Jason, Scott, or any of our guests here today are licensed professional psychologists or psychiatrists. So please don't make any changes to any medication or treatments that you are currently on, based on the conversation that you hear here today. Just hop on the bus and enjoy the ride. Trip with us on the Inner Revelation bus. That's right.
Hi, I'm Jason. Welcome back to the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway. We got a great guest today and we're excited. We got Claudia Rickard. She's an author and does all kinds of healing work. So we're definitely excited to have her on here, aren't we, Scott?
Yeah, buddy. Welcome, welcome.
Welcome, Claudia. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, we're excited. So we got a great one. First question right off the bat. Who are you and what do you do?
I am an emotional intelligence development specialist. I'm a consulting hypnotist and I love helping people. I'm very, very passionate about it. And people, to me, people are people. Okay, so you ask that, when people go, who do you specifically help? And it is literally people, because they could be young, they could be old. To me, people are people. And they all have issues, including myself.
So speaking of issues and speaking of this, when did it come to you where you had that aha moment? Like, hey, I can really help people. When did that moment happen for you?
Okay, that's an interesting one. Actually, I think it's an innate thing within me. I have always liked helping people. When I was little, I would go and see my grandmother in a care home and I would hold all the ladies' hands. I was there just always chatting to them. I went to boarding school when I was younger and I was friendly with everybody. I was the one that was chosen, if you like, to tell girls when they smelt. So I got that job because I did it in a really nice way. And it's, I was just always there. If people were sick in the middle of the night, and they were, I was the one looking after them, stroking their heads. There was one girl, she had an epileptic fit. I was up with her, holding her and saying she was going to be all right. And I'd sent somebody else to get the matron. It's just always been that way. And I did beauty therapy, first of all, at the London College of Fashion. I was an aromatherapist and I've just always loved helping people. And then it went down the counselling road and I did counselling for many years and I did that in England. And then it came that actually hypnosis. Oh, wow, what a difference you can make with that one really quickly. So then I went down that road and it's just grown and blossomed. And so, yeah, always. I think it's just in some people, just is.
So you feel you were born with?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that we're speaking from cross country because I wouldn't want you to tell me I smelled right now, but it's okay.
I do it really nice and in a really nice way, though. I'm really kind.
So that's
be nice.
I noticed you said, "Oh wow," when you were talking about hypnosis. So what's that "oh wow" about?
It's so quick. It's transformation. It's like you could go for years and years of talk therapy and never really get to anything. And to me, it's just people might tell the issue, the trauma, whatever it is, significant emotional event, their story over and over. And all that does is make a really deep, trenched path. Now, hypnosis, we don't even really need to hear much about it. We take the person into their wonderful place, their magical, mystical place, as Carl Smith calls it. And I use that as well now. And their safe place for them. And then you ask them to sort it out themselves. You may do some inner child work. You may guide it. I guide. I never tell people what to do. I guide. And within that space, you can see the relief, and you can just do all sorts of wonderful things. Everybody does it in a different way. I do use parts work. I do use other eye movements. I'm a certified havening practitioner. I'm a certified advanced blast technique practitioner. I use lots of, and an IEMT practitioner. I use loads and loads of different modalities. I pull from everywhere, and that's what somebody gets, a mixy blob of whatever that person, it's like a recipe of whatever that person needs, because everybody's unique and wonderfully different. So, yeah, but the hypnosis, it's beautiful.
So how do you decide where to pull from? Is it intuitive, or do you have a plan?
Yeah, no, I'd never have a plan. It's, well, I might, but as soon as somebody comes in, I go, oh, that one's out the window, then we're doing this, are we, today? And it's so yeah, because you work with the person, what they've got, what they present with. So I may think, oh, I think this will be good today, we can do, the control room for that, and then they come in and it's like, oh, okay, we're definitely doing parts. And so yeah, I do work intuitively. I'm sure many of us do.
Nice. Well, you said you called yourself a guide. So what does that metaphor look like?
Oh, it's that's an interesting one. I have not thought about that before. So what does it look like? Well, it's literally me not telling somebody what to do. And I'll tell you what it really does mean is that when they are in hypnosis, I am often in hypnosis as well. And then I just kind of guide it to, I've actually got no idea what I say sometimes, and I don't work from scripts. My client is the script, and I intuitively just trust my wonderful unconscious mind or subconscious mind or whatever it is, that greater mind of mine, because not everybody believes in that. That's another story. It's and I just trust myself to say the right thing, and I do.
So now, since we're on that topic, and that's another story, so let's talk about that higher conscious mind, or whatever you call it, and your connection there. How does that work for you?
I just know. It's a knowing for me. I trust it, that unique, wonderful mind of mine. It's the same when I've done so many talks. Okay, here's a story for you. The first presentation that I ever gave was a keynote speech. Okay, how's that for you?
Wonderful.
Beryl Comer called me up. She was not feeling well. She had some problems, some health problems, and we were chatting because we do a lot of work together, and we train together as Nightingale dementia consultants. And she said to me, so I hear you're presenting soon. I said, yes, I've got some, I'm speaking at Hypnothoughts Live for the first time. This was last year. And she said, and I'm speaking at Heartlands. She said, what are you speaking on? I said, emotional intelligence. And that's what Beryl Comer is all about. And she said, oh, would you do my talk for me? I said, sure. I said, when is it? She said, it's in 2 hours. I went, okay. My voice got higher and higher. I said, okay. And I said, I've got a client first. And she said, it's the keynote speech. I went, oh. I had half an hour to sort of think, right, what shall I do? And you know what? I just thought, I'll just do what I do in my first session, which is all my emotional intelligence. And that is exactly what I did. I built in a few other bits, and that's what people got. And then I thought it was Beryl's, but it's Bob Burns's. Some will like it, the 3 SWs. Some will like it, some won't. So what? I filled in for her, and there you go. And that was my first presentation, and I had to trust my mind to work for me, and it did.
No, I noticed you were saying you use this person's stuff and this person's stuff, but then I also noticed that you say you pull stuff from here, 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 and here. So my question is what is Claudia's emotional intelligence all about? Your version.
My version. Okay. So it's just that wonderful understanding of those and giving people those aha moments. And I have changed lots of bits along my way. I've got a lot of Beryl Comer's diagrams. I've got Ole's one. That's his name. I've got all my certificates up here, so I have to remember his name. And I've adapted them to how it works for me and with different clients. So if I have a client who I think, oh, that would be really helpful if I tweaked it that way for them, so that they are less judging of themselves, they're less judgmental of themselves, because so many people, I think, have a fear of being judged, and often when that happens, they are judgmental themselves and judge themselves. So if I can say this bit a little bit, but they go, oh, so it doesn't really matter then. I go, yeah. So that's my version. I kind of tweak things to suit my client. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course it does.
Mhm.
So you're tweaking things to sort your client, but then you've also kind of tweaked some things on your own, haven't you?
Oh, yes, I have. And I'm very excited. I do. I have I came up with the bunny talk process, and I see you got the little bunnies there. So I thank you. I really appreciate that. That's awesome. The bunny talk process. Now, this was, look, guys, you know what that is. It's anchoring. When I did this with my daughter when she was 3 years old, I had no idea that us playing shadow puppets and doing mummy bunny and baby bunny was that we were actually anchoring something in there. And it was anchoring in love, safety, security, unconditional love. And we played that for years. My husband was away a lot. He was in the Royal Navy. I mean, literally months at a time. And my two other boys, they were older. She would climb into bed with me every morning, and we would play all sorts of things. And I taught her the days of the weeks, months of the year, all her math, everything like that. And sometimes I would be the baby bunny and she would be the mummy bunny or the teacher bunny, and I would get it wrong on purpose and she would go, it's okay. And so she learned to be kind. Again, I didn't really know I was doing that. It was just fun. It was play. We roll on. She was 12 when we arrived here in America, and then there was COVID. And then around 14, 15, she's started to self-harm. And coming from where we are, that's tough, because it's like, oh, and I, being a mother, going straight back there, I blamed myself. My fault, because it's always about me, isn't it? My fault. But I did. I blamed myself, and because I brought her over from England, and we perhaps ought not to have done that. It is New Year's Eve. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. She comes into my room sobbing. I get out of bed, get into bed with her, hold her, and I asked her, I said, can you tell me what, would you like to talk about it? Got a little, shaking head, still sobbing. And don't ask me what made me do it. I got my mummy bunny out. And then she got her baby bunny out, which is as big as my bunny now, with her little ears down. And then she told Mummy Bunny what had happened to her. She couldn't tell me. She could tell Mummy Bunny, because Mummy Bunny is all about safety, love, and security, unconditional love. And she could tell Mummy Bunny, and it was safe to do so, because she knew that Mummy Bunny wasn't going to say anything negative. She had that feeling, but she knew it was safe. And we then figured out what to do from there. And I had no idea that that was actually then going to be such a huge thing, because she carried on being able to tell me everything. And I happened to be telling Carl Smith this at Hypnothoughts live, and it was when it was still at the Orleans, and he said to me, you got something there, you could write a book. So I said I'd like to write a book about it. And in fact, it was also Cheryl Elman. I was learning sleep talk with her, which is the 2-minute gift a parent gives their child when they're asleep. And she said to me, I was telling her about it, she said, Claudia, you've got to do something with it. That's big. And so I did. As I say, with her and Carl Smith, they both encouraged me to write a book. Oh, it's very short, it's an ebook. It's a parent's journey. But for me, 10 questions, things that parents ought to be asking themselves before they even have a baby. Best things to do when there's a divorce, because I did, my first husband and I, we are divorced. Best practice for children. It's all about the children. And then best practice as well for being a step parent, because I have 2 stepchildren. I made mistakes all the way along being a parent. I really did. I was a shouty parent. I made mistakes all the way through. It was just about got it right with my daughter. She's from my second marriage. But no, I've still made lots of mistakes as well. And, I have shared those in the book. And it's a parent's journey. That's why the front cover is me jumping out of an aeroplane, because that's what it's like being a parent. You're literally free falling. And I'm doing the bunny talk process as I'm free falling. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, she and she has since said to me, Mummy, because you did that with me, I now tell you everything. And then I said to her, darling, I said, you know what? If I ever get dementia, I may forget you and your name. Will you talk to me with the bunnies? Because I'll never forget the feeling of the bunnies. So it transcends generations. And this is why it's such a great anchor. Nice. And all families anywhere will have their own specific anchor. I was talking to Bob Burns about it, and he said, well, yeah, he goes, I've told my wife to talk to me with the swan.
Yeah. Sometimes in our house, we use this one.
Okay. Well, there you go. You'll always remember the feeling. That's hilarious.
Yeah,
For those of you who are on radio, that was a middle finger and it was a joke. Anyway, so let's talk about this. As you see yourself jumping out of that airplane, have you had a guide that has kind of helped guide you through the skies?
Oh, I like it. I have a knowing, which is really strange. I've always known some things, and I don't understand that yet. And I don't often talk about this really, but I will, because you've asked me the question. I do get things coming through now with my clients, and I feel duty bound to say some things. It's I said there was a lady the other day, and I said, your big brother, did he used to, he sadly died. He was a fighter pilot. And did he used to call you sis? And she said, yeah. And I said, I'm just getting, I love you, sis. So yeah, there's a guide. There is a guide. I get a glow, though. I don't actually see things. I see colors.
Huh. So interesting. So this guide,
yeah,
this connection, would you call it a God, higher power, universe? What do you call it? We're on your psychic highway today.
Okay, so I call it my higher self, the universe, and then to me that is also God. So again, I'm a real mixy blob it all together, because I'm never really quite sure, but I just know there is, and it's a knowing, and I quite like that knowing. And I'm not exactly sure what it is. I'm happy to, so when I get various clients saying specific, I just go with whatever they say, of course. And it's like, because it's them, I don't put my stuff on other people. I always ask, do you believe in this? And if they say no, I go, okay, we don't even go there. And then there's some clients who are really into it. And then it can be, especially where there's grief is concerned, I feel it's a lot nicer to go down that path. Yeah. With
Nice.
with knowing that there is a guide, there is something. We all have a spiritual part of us. I believe. I believe.
Nice. So it's nice to see that you're attached and know that source that you get that inner strength from.
Yeah.
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 Wonderful. So now you were talking about your daughter and bringing your daughter. How about your sons? Have you been talking with your sons? How's things going on with them?
Oh, my youngest, he's got his Reiki 2 now, and he is a light worker. He wants to do, so he will do. He's gorgeous. They're all gorgeous. My he has struggled with addictions, and I know he is working from those and off those himself. And he is, I would think he's probably going to specialize in anger. He's very in tuned with that side and of helping people relieve themselves of anger, and he will do good work. He's 25, so and I can't wait for him to learn hypnosis from some, it's like he will be, he'll be good. Now, my eldest son, he lives with his dad, and he is, I don't diagnose, I don't prescribe, I don't treat. He lives with his dad, and he's a similar personality. And unfortunately, I've had to block them, and which is sad. But and he knows I'm there, always there, and I will always love him. But I will not reply to abuse and death threats.
Mm. Well,
So
hopefully that connection that you have will lead you to a path where that relationship can heal. So hopefully
I don't doubt it. It will at some point. It's all part of my journey, because whenever there is something unfavorable coming up from my ex-husband, invariably I get a client who is going through a similar thing, and I can really empathize. And so I'm always very aware that if I'm going through any turmoil, it's like, okay, that's okay. What am I learning? What am I meant to learn? How will I handle this? And then I go through my own process, and then sure enough, I'm able to help somebody else, and it's okay.
So you're speaking at Hypnothoughts this year.
I am.
What are you speaking on?
I'm actually speaking on navigating dementia with dignity,
And I can't
because
wait to hear this.
oh good, yeah, it's did you know that somebody's being diagnosed with dementia every 3 seconds? It's
Interesting.
really scary thought, isn't it? And so there's a backstory again about my grandma with that. And again, when I was learning from Dr. Daniel Nightingale, I had no idea some of this terminology, but it was used with my grandma, because again, there was a whole thing like senile dementia, and people say, oh, your life's over, you can't do anything. Actually, you can live well with dementia. And as hypnotists, we can help people navigate that journey. And the caregivers, remember, it's very much about the caregivers as well. And so Beryl Comer and we are actually developed our own course around that as well, because Dr. Daniel Nightingale, he's not training it anymore. And so we are for people like us, because he scientifically proved it, that hypnosis can help people living with dementia, because when they're in that hypnagogic phase, when their eyes are going left and right, it's producing acetylcholine, which is great for the brain synapses. So we can help. And the caregiver, of course, with NLP techniques and, all those sorts of things that for the relaxation and all sorts of stuff. So, yeah.
Interesting. That hits my home pretty well. My father-in-law is 98 years old and has dementia, and he's lived with us since my mother-in-law had died 20 years ago. So we've had him in the house for the last 20, little over 20 years with dementia. So we deal with this all the time. And
Wow.
it definitely makes a huge impact in what we say and how we say things. And
Yes, because you are their co-regulator. And how, and if
regulator is a mighty big word. I don't even know what that means. Come on, what's that all about?
so if you are grumpy and speak to them in a grumpy tone, that's how they will respond. If you're like, hey, how's it going? And all cheery, then they will, that's the similar way they'll respond. You are their co-regulator. They at that when they're, depends what stage they're in, but it's more likely that they will be looking to you to how to be. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Well, we notice he comes to life when he plays games, like on the kitty basketball game, or if we put out the little kitty drums. He likes those type of things.
Yeah, exactly. So play. And it's all about putting a smile on somebody's face.
So, speaking of play, how do you play?
Well, I've got a new dog, a golden retriever, and I love to be outside. I paddleboard. As you know, I told you I skydived last year. I flew an aeroplane. I used to ski. I used to swim a lot. I ride my bike every morning. I used to run. I used to do triathlons actually until I wore my knee away. So now I'm sort of in maintenance. I'm at that age where I'm in maintenance. But being outside is play. Outside, anything outside.
Nice. Now I'm hogging the conversation. I'm gonna let Scott throw a question out here. Go ahead, Scott, your turn.
Wow, you've got so many tools in your toolbox. I'm just curious as to what's next. You've got enough tools in there to probably write another 2 books or more. So what's next?
Oh, interesting. I do. I have a title. I've got two more books I want to write, two more ebooks, and then I'll put them together into a book because they're only short. I do like to do short and sweet because that's just the way I am. I've read so many books that have said the same thing in 5 different ways. Once is enough. so, well, it is for me anyway. Now, what's next? I'm very excited. I am actually training the bunny talk process as a course. So it's emotional intelligence. It's the bunny talk process. It's how you work with children. Bob Burns, I don't know if you've seen it. He gave me a wonderful endorsement on it. I asked for some help to promote it, and he said, "Send me a video of you doing this with a child." So I did, and he blatantly says in his testimonial, he says, "I was expecting to hate it, and actually I loved it." He goes, "She's got something here." He goes, "You can actually physically see the child changing when I'm doing the bunny eye movements with the child." And he loved the bunny. And it's and it's about drawing around the body as well, and you color it in. And it's so I'm very excited. I am going to be so, and again, that is little bits from so many different courses I've got, but I kind of made it my own. But the bunny, because of the backstory, that is completely mine. And he's saying that's what's so wonderfully unique about it. So I'm doing a workshop at Hypnothoughts Live, and I have been invited to Australia, and and in fact you've got me in touch with John Scanlon. He's invited me to do it in Dublin. So I'm very excited. So I've got that all next year. So yes, and in fact I'm collaborating with a therapist here. I've spoken to her about it, and she wants me to train it in her offices. So yeah, that's the next step, is now to train it. And that's what Bob said to me. And in fact, that's what Scott said to me. You've done enough training. Now you need to train other people now. So I said, okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Now we know a little bit about the bunny technique. We also know that you do the NLP and you do hypnosis. But what about this blast technique or the havening that you do? What's that all about?
Okay, so Nick Davies, he's in England. He created the blast technique, and it's it's based on NLP, and it's because it's the eye movements, but he's added in his own unique things with it, and he uses a light. Where's my pen? He uses a light pen because the brain can track that. And because when we're in dark, when you're in, your eyes always go to a light. So it's so yeah. And then he says some super suggestions. So that's what he does. And the havening, I learned that with Stephen Travers, and it's again, it's another way to get rid of all of that stuff that chimps away here back on into the hippocampus. And it depotentiates the AMPA receptors. That's what he calls them. I use this little tool from Carl Smith, you know, Carl, to explain it. I love it when you get these. He knows, and I love that about Carl Smith. He says, use my stuff, make it your own. Okay, so I did. So it's so I explained that with little bits that I got from Stephen Travers with the havening to explain to my clients. And again, as you said, how do I make it my emotional intelligence? That's how I explain it. What's going on? There's AMPA receptors stuck on here like blobs of poo, and when I do either the blast technique or the havening, I pop those off. And then instead of going still when there's that might be being triggered, you just go and that's what I'm now going to be training other people to do. So yeah, I mean, I'm busy. I'm known as the hypnotist in the area, and it's because I don't just do. I'm not saying there is just hypnosis, but it's everything. And because I do think if you give a really good pre-talk and you do with all of that emotional intelligence, people just go, they're in hypnosis already. When I'm doing that, they're like, yeah, you know, it's like, and change happens, the magic happens. When they're ready for change, they've got to be ready.
That's right. So now,
right.
And for our viewers, I'm sure they're going to want to get in touch with you. So how do we do that? I want to put this up on the screen. How do we get in touch with you?
Oh, just go straight to my website. I'll just say one thing. It's Claudia Rickard hypnosis.com. It's all on there. All my other things are on there. You can find me. All my other links are on there. Nice. Claudia Rickard hypnosis.com. In fact, even claudiarickard.com will work. We've got that as well.
That's right.
Nice.
Now, I also happen to know from personal experience that you have a community that you have on Facebook that you help people with too. What's that all about? How's that going for you?
My Facebook group called Becoming a Happier You, because we can never be happy 100% all of the time. I don't know where anybody ever said that we had to be happy all of the time. So to me, it's always about becoming a happier you. And there is a wonderful book called The Gap and the Gain. And I mean, I would have loved to have said I could have written that, but I didn't. And I've forgotten the author right now. So anyway, but you can find the book, The Gap and the Gain. And he says in there that 10% of the time you were sad, 10% of the time you were happy. And then there's this little bit in the middle. And did you know that there are more unhappy millionaires than there are happy millionaires? And it's because they are not billionaires. So they're always thinking, oh, well, I want a bigger boat or a bigger this or a bigger that or a better this. And so they fall into the gap. Now, if they'd remembered where they had come from and were grateful, because we all like our gratefulness, then they would fall into the gain. So that's why it's all about becoming a happier you.
Nice, nice. Yeah, so that's wonderful that you got that going on and everything else going on. So it's a blast. Now, what else would you like to add to this? What else can you share about us now that we're on your highway?
Well, I think one thing that I do always like to be and do is to be consistent. I think it's really important for all of us to be consistent with just about everything that we do for ourselves. And that way we show up for ourselves. I think that's really important. So consistency.
So what do you mean by that?
So for me, I personally show up for myself every day by putting on my gym kit. And I don't go to the gym, but I do my own kettlebells at home, my own sit-ups. I go out on my bike and I walk the dog. I don't go far on my bike. I only go 3 miles. Okay. I go up the lane and back and there's a little hill in it. And then I get my creative juices flowing. All right. So I'm showing up for myself again there. And and this is funny, actually. My guide comes along sometimes because if I am being negative with myself, I get this little voice going, shh, shh. So that's interesting. Yeah, you just reminded me of that. And that happens if I'm speaking to myself negatively. So I'm not allowed to speak to myself negatively because I get this other little voice going, shh, which quiets it down. So, yeah. So I show up for myself every morning and I show up for my group. I show up for my Facebook group.
Nice.
Yeah. And then my clients and then my family. Well, I think my family needs to be first in there, really, but they're all big and they're all sort of like, my daughter's 18 now, so they're all doing their own thing.
Yeah, we saw she just had a birthday party.
Yeah.
Nice. Scott, is there anything you wanted to add?
And I'm just glad you took a lot of your time out of your busy schedule to come and share with us today. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate you for inviting me.
Yeah, we really appreciate having you here. And I also personally appreciate you getting my book that I just released.
That's right. I was just going to say, I look forward to reading it.
Thank
I
you.
got a notification that it'll be coming soon. So yeah, I shall
Nice.
read that. Yeah.
Right on. So is there anything else, guys? Anything you want to close out with, Claudia?
I think stay true to yourself. Keep being you and you do you and let others do them. Keep being you. Yeah.
What a great closing statement. What a great, and speaking of us being us, we're the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway, and we'd like to thank you for tuning in today. If you'd like to, give us a thumbs up. If you think we're assholes, just give us a thumbs down. We don't care. Keep coming back. We want you to be here. We want you to respond. Share it with others. Follow us. And once again, Claudia, thank you for allowing us to travel down your Magical Psyche Highway, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Wow, what a trip. Thanks for taking that journey with us today. Please like us, share us, and enlighten us with your views of the topics we drove into today. We appreciate you and love reading your comments. Thanks again, and we hope to see you back on the bus next week. That's right.